You guys, welcome to Sick of Pricks, a type 2 diabetes podcast. I'm Mary, your diabetes bestie. And today we're talking about dreaded doctor's appointments, or as I like to call it, please, by all means, tell me something I already know. One time I went to the endocrinologist's office, and the first thing he asked me when he walked in the room is, "How are you?" And I thought, oh my gosh, he cares how I am. That's awesome, right? And so I said, "I'm good." And his response was, "If you were good, your A1C would be under 7. And I remember thinking, wow, thank you for simplifying my entire existence, my physical, mental well-being, to what a single blood test shows. Forget any other aspect of my life. I couldn't possibly be good if my A1C was not under 7. Got it. Thanks for that." Since then, though, I have been very, very lucky to have pretty great doctors on my team. Doctors who listen to me, who are empathetic, who don't judge, who trust that I know what's going on with my body and are willing to compromise and brainstorm and figure things out together rather than talking down at me like I'm clueless about a disease that I've lived with more than half my life. So today we're going to talk about the reality of going to the doctor or the endocrinologist when you're living with type 2 diabetes. And we're also going to talk about how to make the most of those doctor's appointments because we know our time is short and we have questions that need to be answered. And finally, we're going to talk about what to do when you don't feel like your needs are being met by your medical team. Like, how do we move forward from that? So when I was newly diagnosed, I hated going to the doctor. And if you have ever been overweight, had a chronic disease, if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you are living with type 2 diabetes or you know somebody or love somebody who is. You know that many of us dread that lecture that comes with going to the doctor, right? You have to step on the scale. First thing, like priority one, they usher you to the scale, the blood pressure, the endocrinologist pricks your finger. And it's almost like, here's your report card. And now here's your lecture about all the things that you're doing wrong. And when I was in the denial part of my diagnosis for about the first decade after I was diagnosed, I never wanted to go to the doctor because I wanted to avoid any kind of uncomfortable conversation about my health. And it wasn't until I started playing an active role in my management that I actually looked forward to going to the doctor, which sounds so bizarre to me even to this day. But I think if you take anything away from this episode, it's that the difference between going to the doctor 10 years ago and going to the doctor now, for me, is a completely different experience because I know how my body works. I know how my medications work. I know what foods affect my body negatively or positively. I know what exercise does for me. I know myself and my health. And so when I go to the doctor now, it's a conversation. And I think before, it was a lecture. It was me listening to the doctor talk at me about what my health should look like, what my diet should look like, what my movement should look like. And they just told me what to do. And I sat there and just took it and dismissed it, or took it and then went and cried, in my car afterwards, because I just felt helpless because I didn't have the knowledge to speak up for myself. I just was unaware of how my own body worked. And it wasn't until I started paying attention, for me, not listening to someone else, but figuring it out for myself, that I was able to talk to my doctor. Listen, I don't have a medical degree, so I'm not going to say that, we're on the same level medical knowledge-wise. However, I was able to be part of my own medical team and be part of the conversation rather than just being talked at. And I think that's such an empowering feeling. And I remember it so well the first time I was able to go to the doctor and say, this is happening, this side effect is happening, my numbers are doing this. What can we do about my post-meal numbers? They seem to always be higher than they should be. And just knowing all of my own data and being a contributor to the conversation. Such an amazing feeling. And so when I go to the doctor now, I'm not scared. I don't dread getting my blood work results because I know the weight, the blood pressure, the blood sugar, the kidney numbers, all the data that comes back when they do your blood work. That's all it is data. It's a checkpoint to figure out how your diabetes management plan is working. It's not a moral judgment. It's not a pass or fail. It is a check-in, right? And if I look at it like that, then I know what areas I need to work on and what areas are working successfully, right? So it doesn't have to be this anxiety-inducing experience that it used to be, because I am able to separate diabetes management from who I am as a person. Like I said in my story at the beginning of this episode, the doctor said you couldn't possibly be good if your A1C isn't under 7, right? Diabetes is part of me. Sure, I live with it every day. It is always in the back of my mind with everything that I do, right? Because your numbers are affected by so many things. But it is not who I am. And so when you think about your diagnosis as a part of you, something that you live with, you are so much more than that. And I know this isn't directly related to doctor's appointments, but I want you to know your diagnosis is not who you are. It is a part of you. It's something that will always be there that you have to manage and deal with and figure out. But you are a whole person with interests and talents and hobbies and a life. And it is so important that we don't equate the success of our management to how good of a person we are. Completely different things, okay? No one's getting a medal for having a better A1C than you, okay? It's not like the diabetes Olympics, okay? So your doctor's appointment, you get there, they do your vitals, the doctor comes in, there's a hair in my face. The doctor comes in and they ask you how it's going. What do you normally say? You just say good. Because I feel like sometimes people ask, how are you? Or how's it going? And they don't really want to know the full answer. They just want a good or a fine. But let's give our doctors the benefit of the doubt that they really do want to know. Because I think the statistic is that we have like 7.5 minutes with our doctors in our appointments. They are busy. They have a whole roster of patients to see that day. So we have to let it all out. Okay? Like word vomit. How are you? This. This is what's going on. Let's figure it out. So when the doctor asks you, how's your diet? How's your exercise? How's your mental health? You have to answer honestly. And I know that's complicated because how's your diet? My gosh, I could talk for 3 hours about how complicated my relationship with food is, right? I think that question is a loaded one. How's your movement? Great. How's your eating? Great. How's your mental health? Great. We can grate the whole time, but is that really going to help us over the next 3 to 6 months until we see them again? Probably not. We need to take advantage of the time that we have with our doctors. Some doctors are amazing. They listen, they're empathetic. They don't get personally offended if you tell them you ate bread last night. But some, as you know, it can feel like the shame and blame game. I had a doctor when I was first diagnosed. This makes me so angry when I think back at it. I was maybe 25 years old, maybe, might have been younger. And my blood work came back terrible. I don't even remember what it was. I know my cholesterol was super high. And he told me he was going to drop me as a patient because I made him look bad. Because I was non-compliant. And when I think about that now, I think, wow, he really did have an opportunity to encourage me, to guide me. But instead, he wanted to just toss me aside because numbers made him look bad. It really hurts my heart when I think about that 25-year-old me because I spent such a long time avoiding doctors after that because I was ashamed. And now certainly it's not his fault, my inaction on my part. I take full accountability for the fact that I was not taking care of myself. However, that doctor-patient relationship was not good for me. Did I ever go back to that doctor after that visit? I did not. I didn't. And I didn't go to the doctor again for a really long time because I didn't want to relive that kind of experience. So if you're in a situation where you leave the doctor feeling worse than when you got there because of the way they are interacting with you, it may be time to look at our options. And we're going to talk about what to do if that is the situation that you're in. So how do we make the most of this 7.5 minutes that we have? Okay. We know that all the questioning and all of the discussion is necessary. Can it be a little annoying or repetitive? Yes. But is it important? Also, yes. So here's what's worked for me and others that I've talked to in the diabetes community. Okay? Tip number 1, bring a list. You're going to forget something. Okay? We're not getting any younger. So make a list of what's changed since the last time you were at the doctor. So are you experiencing new side effects? Do you have new symptoms? Do you have concerns? What is, this tingly feeling you feel on your left toe? Whatever has changed for you over the last 3 to 6 months, whenever it was you were there last, write it down. And I like to keep it in my phone, okay? I keep a little note going in my phone. Anytime I think of something for the doctor, I jot it down. That way, I have it ready to go when I get there. Number 2, ask the stupid question. First of all, spoiler alert, there's no stupid questions. If you don't understand something, make them explain it to you, whether it's how a medication works, whether it's how to take the medication, when to take it, whatever questions you have. I cannot say this enough. Ask the question, okay? They went to medical school. They can handle a follow-up question. I promise you. Number 3, take notes or bring someone with you to take notes, because sometimes it's like they're speaking a different language and it is difficult to remember everything. So write it down. And if you can bring someone, that's awesome. It doesn't have to be a big elaborate story, but it can be something just like ask the pharmacist what this drug does, or, what food should I avoid when I'm taking such and such medicine? What do I do if I am sick or if I am experiencing severe side effects? When do I call you? Write down notes for yourself so that you don't forget what you discussed with your doctor. Finally, the last tip, advocate for yourself. If something doesn't feel right, the meds, the symptoms, the side effects, tell your doctor. And you don't have to wait until your next appointment. If you are feeling something 2 weeks after you just saw them, a lot of doctors' offices have a patient portal where you can email or call your doctor. Do not wait. You know your body best. If something doesn't feel right, don't let anyone make you second guess yourself. Call them. This is your appointment. So you are not there to impress anyone. You're not there to put on airs. You're there to be heard, to be helped, and maybe get through it and actually feel empowered when you leave. The next thing we're going to talk about is kind of a touchy subject, but I've been there. And so I want to share with you this experience, okay? When it's just not working with your doctor. So say you do all the things that I mentioned. You made your list, you asked your questions, you smiled while they lectured you, and you still leave the doctor feeling like garbage. If your doctor's appointments feel more like a performance review that you're getting at work, like, are you going to get a raise or not? Newsflash. You're allowed to fire your doctor. I think a lot of times we forget that our doctors work for us. We are not employees having to do whatever they say. In my opinion, it should be a partnership. We should be working together. But you have to remember that you are not obligated to stay at the practice that you're at. I know that sometimes insurance can be an issue. You might not have a ton of options. But here's what I want you to look for. When you go to the doctor, if you feel judged instead of supported, if they don't listen and they just talk at you, if they rush you, dismiss your concerns, or they talk over you, that drives me crazy, by the way, or you just dread going there, like more than you dread, getting your blood work done, these are signs that the relationship is not working. Now, I'm not saying that you need someone who's going to tell you that you're doing amazing because you ate a salad for dinner last night. But if you leave the office feeling worse instead of better every single time, it's not good medicine. It's emotional trauma, and it's not going to serve your health, because chances are you're going to feel that and not want to go to the doctor. And that's not what we want. We want you to continue being proactive about your health. So if you are experiencing these things, Here are some tips to move forward. Tip number 1, try talking about it. And I know I hate confrontation too, but if you're feeling brave, bring it up. Say, I'd like more time to ask questions, or it feels like my concerns aren't being heard. Best case scenario, they adjust and they make a little more time for you. Worst case scenario brings us to tip number 2. Look around. Check your insurance. Most insurance has, an app or a website where you can see other doctors who are in network. Ask your friends, ask Google. You'd be shocked, I think, to find how many people have broken up with their doctor and never looked back. Finally, trust your gut. Health is a personal thing, and everyone needs a different approach. Some people benefit from the tough love doctor. I'm not one of them. I want a doctor who feels like my friend, who is in it with me. You need someone on your team, not one who treats you like a chart number. You deserve a doctor who listens, who respects your lived experience, and who doesn't treat you like a failure if your results aren't exactly where they want them to be. Breaking up with your doctor is hard, but staying in a one-sided relationship with your healthcare provider is way harder. When you leave the doctor, chances are there's going to be some action steps that they want you to carry out when you leave, right? Lose a few pounds, exercise more, cut the carbs, whatever. Things we already know when we walked in the door. Sometimes it feels like they're giving us the same advice they gave 10 years ago. But the truth is, when you find a doctor who really listens, who says, let's figure this out together, who doesn't talk at you, but talks with you, instead of being on a, pedestal, they're eye to eye with you, hold on to that doctor, okay? Let them know that you appreciate their approach. You guys, thank you for hanging out with me for this episode of Sick of Pricks. If you've got a wild doctor story, I would love to hear it in the comments or shoot me an email. Until then, like, subscribe, and share with a friend, and I'll see you next time.